All right, moving on to the Detroit Pistons, who have lost 3 straight, currently sit in the 9th seed. They're 3 games back from the Heat, who have laid out the red carpet for them, losing 8 of their last 10. So they have invited the Pistons into their playoff spot, and the Pistons have said no thank you with losses to the Clippers, Hawks, Pelicans, Hornets, Celtics, and Raptors. They've lost 6 of their last 7 after they won 5 straight after the Griffin trade. Are the Pistons going to make the playoffs, and how much of an impact can Reggie Jackson's return have?
I'll answer the second question first.
Okay. Our resident Pistons expert here.
Reggie Jackson, before his injury, the Pistons were 19-14, and since his injury, they've been 9-18.
Yep.
He is such an integral part to the way the Pistons play.
Yep.
And I think it is going to be hard for the Pistons to make the playoffs. It'll be made a lot easier if they beat the Heat. I think it's Sunday they play.
Yeah, that's a huge game.
So if they win that wipes a game off that deficit. But then the problem does become there's a big road trip coming up, which I think is like 9 of the next 12 games are on the road, something like that.
Their road record in 2018 is 1-9.
Yeah,
and we've got of their remaining 20.
13 more games on the road. I think Stan Van Gundy said on Monday that Reggie Jackson could return before that road trip. It's just going to be a matter of how does he gel with Blake Griffin, because he's obviously never played with him before, so it's going to be an extra ball handle, an extra shooter bringing into the side.
Especially Blake with his ball handling ability as well. He does do it a lot.
The one thing I think does go in the right direction for the Pistons is that 11 of the last 22 games are against teams in the bottom 5 of their conference. So you're talking about a lot of those teams who are in the so-called tankathon.
Yep.
So those teams will be looking to lose, but the Pistons have lost. I think Atlanta was one of the games they lost
to the Hawks.
Lost previously. So they just can't drop those games against those teams that they should be beating.
Yep. I mean, they got blown off the court by the Raptors. They've lost most of those games. Were lost by over 10 points, so it wasn't necessarily close losses.
By Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Blake's been all right, but he hasn't been spectacular. He's not the saviour that a lot of Pistons fans might have thought.
I think people expected that because of his production in Los Angeles, but they've also got to understand that DeAndre Jordan doesn't have the same offensive impact as what Andre Drummond does.
So he's going to take more touches.
Yeah, Griffin isn't using the ball as much as he was at the Clippers.
Yep. And I think a lot of people as well just don't realise how much of an impact Chris Paul had on Griffin's career. Yeah. He's never been the same player without Chris Paul. I mean, now that's for everyone. Nobody's going to be the same player after you lose one of the best point guards of all time, finding you in the perfect pass, pinpoint pass, right in the shooting pocket every time. But yeah, I think Blake for me is a very, very good player. But if he's your leading man, I think you're going to struggle to win a championship. Which, I mean, the Pistons aren't there now, but every team's striving to win a championship, and you took on a guy who's got a massive contract, still 4 years left on it. So,
they're pretty much stuck with Griffin.
I think the one thing is they need to find a lot of depth. You look at some of their players on the bench, and there are some names that are relatively cheap at the moment that they've got. Like James Ennis was a guy they traded for just at the deadline, and Tolliver is a great locker room guy.
Right, yeah.
He's one of the most loved players in the locker room at Detroit, and there was when they bought him back, I think they traded him away and then bought him back. It was just a big morale boost for everyone on the roster. But then guys like Dwight Bikes, who we signed after having him on a 10-day contract or a 2-way contract this season, and then signing him up for the rest of the season. You got to give guys like Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson had a couple of years in the league, but him and Luke Kennard have got to develop. So
Jimmy and Nelson,
it is a bright future, in my opinion, and I'm very biased.
I mean, even Ellenson, Moreland, guys like that, in their 6 losses over their last 7, the opponent's bench has outscored the Pistons' bench every game. And if you look at it as a cumulative outscoring, it's 136 points over 6 games. So their depth is being exposed.
Exactly, and that's the thing with Ish Smith being forced into the starting lineup. He was the number one option off the bench. So Reggie Jackson will be a huge help when he comes back.
Yeah, but I mean, as we said, at the moment, they're 3 games back from the playoff spot. They're only 1 game ahead of the Charlotte Hornets as well, who've actually won 4 on the trot, and they're rising fast. Are they going to make the playoffs? Yes or no?
I had them a couple of weeks back. I said when they traded for Blake Griffin and they got hot for a bit, I said they'll take the Sixers spot. But now it's not looking that way.
I think the Sixers are in there comfortably at the moment, but Brownie, yes or no, they're going to make it
though. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was the same. I thought with Griffin that they were going to make a run, but it's not looking too flash.
No,
and the Sixers are playing pretty well. With Simmons, he's fired up because he didn't get the All-Star.
Yeah, didn't get his All-Star call up.
Yeah,
of course they are.
They're biased.
I'm going to say no, just because I think it's out of the Heat or the Pistons, and I can't trust Stan Van Gundy over Spoelstra.